based on true events. I grew up in a small town. Just outside the town was a forest that locals often used as a shortcut to get home. I had walked that trail since I was a child. Nothing unusual had ever happened there. So one evening when I noticed the glow of a campfire deep between the trees, I assumed it was just a group of campers. I decided to get a little closer. The farther I walked, the quieter the forest became. The birds stopped singing. Even the wind seemed to disappear. Then I heard something, a strange whisper, dozens of voices repeating the same words over and over. I couldn't understand a single one. Instinctively, I hid behind a large tree. In a small clearing, about 10 people were sitting around the fire. They all wore long black robes with hoods covering their faces. None of them moved. They simply sat there, quietly chanting. For nearly 5 minutes, no one even raised their head. Then one of them stood up. He carried an old burlap sack, and something inside let out a faint squeak. He slowly untied the rope. Inside was a live rabbit. At that exact moment, every voice fell silent. The clearing became so quiet that I could hear my own breathing. The man lifted the rabbit above the fire. Then every single person around the flames slowly raised their heads. That was when I realized they were all looking directly toward me, not at the fire, not at each other, straight at the tree where I was hiding. I didn't wait. I slowly began stepping backward. I was only a few meters away from the trail. Then, a dry branch snapped loudly beneath my foot. I turned around and ran. I had never run so fast in my life. It felt as if dozens of footsteps were chasing me through the darkness. But I never looked back. When I finally reached home, I locked every door, closed every window, and immediately called the police. About 20 minutes later, we returned to the clearing. The fire was gone. The people were gone. The place was completely empty. Police found only 3 things: a blood-covered rabbit, long strands of human hair tied together with a red thread, and an old photograph. It showed the exact same clearing. The picture was dated 1983. The same hooded figures were sitting around the fire, but one person was standing a few steps away, looking directly into the camera. When the officer examined the photograph more closely, he silently turned it toward me. It was me, standing among them, even though I wasn't even born in 1983. I have never walked through that forest again, but sometimes, late at night, I can still see a faint orange glow deep between the trees. And somehow, it feels like they're still waiting for me to come back, based on historical reports. In 1837, just 3 months after Queen Victoria ascended the throne, a London businessman was walking home late at night through a cemetery. Among the gravestones, he noticed a human figure that, with a single effortless leap, cleared the cemetery wall and disappeared into the darkness. The Lord Mayor of London dismissed the story as nothing more than gossip, spread by frightened servants. But soon letters began arriving from terrified citizens. Families threatened to leave London, fearing for their safety. Then reports of attacks started coming in from different parts of the city. Public panic grew. People accused the police of doing nothing. The mysterious attacker soon became known as Spring-Heeled Jack. In February 1838, even the biggest skeptics, including the Lord Mayor himself, could no longer ignore the reports. A brutal attack on a young woman named Jane Alsop shocked the entire city. After that incident, Spring-Heeled Jack became one of the most wanted figures in England. Police patrols searched the streets at night, but he always seemed to disappear before anyone could catch him. Just 5 days later, he appeared again. This time at a house on Turner Street belonging to Mr. Ashworth, a neighbor of the Alsop family. He politely rang the front doorbell. When a young servant boy opened the door, he found himself staring into the glowing red eyes of a terrifying figure. The frightened boy screamed. Before anyone could react, Spring-Heeled Jack vanished into the night. His next victim was 18-year-old Lucy Scales. On the evening of February 28th, she and her sister Margaret were walking home after visiting their brother William, a butcher. As they walked along a narrow alley, Lucy, who was a few steps ahead, noticed a lone figure wearing a long cloak. At first, she thought it was a woman because she could make out what looked like a bonnet. Then the stranger suddenly opened the cloak and blasted a stream of blue flames directly into her face. Lucy collapsed almost instantly. Just before losing consciousness, she realized the figure was actually a thin man. Hearing the terrified screams, William rushed toward the alley. But when he arrived, only his two sisters were there. The attacker had disappeared without a trace. The investigation continued for months. Several suspects were questioned. Some were even arrested, but no evidence ever linked anyone to the attacks. The reputation of the London police, already badly damaged, suffered even more. For the next 20 years, newspapers continued publishing reports of new sightings of Spring-Heeled Jack. In 1877, a sentry stationed at the military camp in Aldershot reported another terrifying encounter. During his night watch, he noticed a figure, confidently, walking straight toward him. The soldier ordered the stranger to stop. The figure kept coming. He fired several shots. Every one of them missed. The stranger walked right up to him, struck him across the face with a hand that felt as cold as a corpse, then laughed and disappeared into the fog. Other reports only strengthened the legend. In 1838, in Castleton, a young woman claimed she had been attacked by a man with long claws, who then effortlessly leapt over a tall fence and vanished. The last widely reported sighting of Spring-Heeled Jack took place in Liverpool in 1904, where he was said to have attacked a homeless man, although no proof of his existence has ever been found. Spring-Heeled Jack remains one of Britain's greatest unsolved mysteries, a legend, and a symbol of the terror that hides in the darkness. The Last Call. They say this story first appeared on an old internet forum. There were no photographs, no evidence, no name attached to the post. It contained only a few simple lines. If you still have an old phone number, call it at exactly 3:33 a.m. If someone answers, do not continue the conversation. Most people dismissed it as just another creepy internet story. But within a few weeks, strange comments began appearing beneath the post. Some claimed they heard nothing but heavy static. Others said they could hear someone breathing. A few users deleted their comments only hours later, as if they regretted writing them. That was when a university student from Warsaw decided to test the legend. He found an old SIM card he hadn't used in years. He placed it into an old phone, disconnected it from the mobile network, and set an alarm for 3:33 a.m. When the time came, he dialed his own number. The phone rang for a long time. He was about to hang up. Then, without warning, someone answered. At first, there was complete silence. Then came slow, heavy breathing. So close that it sounded as if Someone were standing right beside him. Trying to stay calm, he asked, "Who's there?" No answer, only silence. Then a quiet voice spoke his name. He froze. He asked again who was speaking. The voice whispered only one sentence. "You already know the answer." The call ended immediately. The student convinced himself it had been nothing more than a prank. But the next morning, something impossible happened. His call history showed an outgoing call to his own number at 3:33 a.m., even though he clearly remembered turning the phone off after the conversation. The following night, curiosity overcame fear. At exactly 3:33 a.m., he called the number again. This time, there was no ringing. Someone answered instantly. The voice sounded calm, far too calm. As if it had been waiting for the call, it spoke only one sentence. "Don't leave your home tomorrow." The line went dead. The next day, he couldn't stop thinking about those words. Eventually, he decided not to attend his university exam. He stayed home. Later that afternoon, news broke that an electrical fire had started inside the old university building. Several students were seriously injured. The classroom where his exam was scheduled was completely destroyed. After that day, he never called the number again. He deleted the recording, threw away the old phone, bought a new one, changed his number. Eventually, he even moved to another city. But every single night at exactly 3:33 a.m., his phone would ring. It didn't matter which phone he used. The screen always displayed the same caller, his own number. At first he answered, then he stopped answering. Eventually he began turning his phone off before going to bed. The calls continued anyway, even when the phone was completely powered off. Over the following months, he stopped leaving his apartment. He stopped answering his friends. Then one night, he simply disappeared. His apartment door was locked from the inside. The windows were sealed shut. There were no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle. Security cameras showed that no one had entered and no one had left. Police found only one thing inside the apartment, his phone. It was lying on the floor beside the bed. The screen was shattered, yet the device was still working. When investigators examined the call history, they found no incoming calls, only hundreds of outgoing calls. Every one of them had been placed at exactly 3:33 a.m. Every single one had been made to the same number, his own. The case was never solved. Several months later, a new comment appeared beneath that same old forum post where the legend had first been published. It contained only one sentence. "If your phone rings at 3:33 a.m., do not answer it under any circumstances." No one ever heard from that account again.